Okay, I'm back. So the second part of the video is I just want to cover some more advanced concepts, but I realize that we're under a lot of changes right now, and I'm just gonna sort of stick to the basics. But for those of you who want to learn some advanced concepts, I would like to show it to you to give you that opportunity to grow. But again, in terms of the exam and stuff, this content's a little past where I'm gonna go with it. So there's something called completing the square. There are actually 4 ways to solve. I'm just going to show you real quick on another sheet of paper. There's 4 ways to solve a quadratic. There's 4 techniques to solve a quadratic. A quadratic being when you have a second degree. And we've already done the first 2 methods, right? We already can solve by the factoring method, right? But the factoring method only works if it's factorable. We just did the square root method. There's something called completing the square. And then the last technique is called, and you know this one, solving by the quadratic formula, which is where we're going to head in the next lecture, not this one. So the factoring method only works when it's factorable. The square root method only works when it's something squared equals a constant. So the first 2 are like super quick methods, but they don't always work. The last 2 methods always work, but they're a lot longer and take a lot more effort. But the upside is they always work. I will just briefly show you solving by completing the square. There are like 3 different ways that you use completing the square. It's sort of a very versatile technique. So one of the ways to use completing the square is to solve an equation. So I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing you do if you're going to solve by completing the square is you move the constant to the other side. Again, I'm not going to ask you to do this technique because it's quite a few steps, and I've already got you under 5 sections this week. So if you just want to learn this is a nice advanced concept if you're going to go up the ladder with the mathematics, which as you could probably guess, I hope that you are. All right, the formula to complete the square is what we call 1/2 b quantity squared. B being the coefficient of the linear term. 12 is the coefficient of the linear term. So I'm going to put it in here in the formula. I'm going to take 1/2 of it and then I'm going to square it. So I just took 1/2 of it. Now I'm going to square it. It's 36. So the idea is that you want to make 2 identical photocopies when you factor this. And that's what the formula does. It gives you 2 identical photocopies. So like this equals to x plus 6 times x plus 6. So it gives you this. So it's x plus 6 quantity squared when you factor it. Now I skipped over this step sort of quickly, so let me run back. So you figure out what this term is that goes here by you figure out the 3rd term of the trinomial, the constant part, and you put it here, which allows it to be a perfect square of sum or a perfect square of difference. But just make sure, like, whatever you add to the left side, you also have to add it to the right side, because you have to keep the equation balanced. All right, so now that I've added it to this side, this is 49. And as you can see now, it has this, why it's here in this section, because it has that setup of something squared equal to a constant. So when you solve by completing the square, it's going to format itself to be solvable by the square root method. It will always happen like that. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and solve this one while we're at it, just to see another example. So we take the square root of both sides. The square and the square root cancel on the left. You got a plus or minus, make sure you put that in front. 49 is a perfect square, so it's going to be 7. You're going to move the 6 to the other side. So x equals to -6 plus or minus 7. So -6 plus 7, which is 1. -6, right? This is shorthand when you write stuff like this. So I'm collapsing the shorthand. -6 minus 7 is -13. Okay, so that's the two answers to this one. So I just showed you completing the square. If you want to learn more about this, you can grab some videos online. This would be, you would Google solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. All right, the last thing I want to cover in this section is finding the distance between 2 points. And the distance formula is this, and it's basically calculated off of the Pythagorean theorem. If you're familiar with the Pythagorean theorem, that's where it's coming from. So the difference in the heights, that's this side. Sorry, I forgot to put the square in here. The difference in the heights minus the difference in the x values is going to give you the hypotenuse squared, but if you take the square root of the hypotenuse and move it to the other side, it's over here. And we don't put the plus or minus in front because distance is a positive magnitude. Okay, so basically I just want to expose you to the distance formula just so you can see it. I'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 is 2 minus y1, which is a negative 1, squared. This should be a plus in the middle. Okay, so because it's quantity squared plus quantity square root. Okay, yeah, it needs to be a plus in the middle. And then x sub 2 is 3 minus 7 quantity squared, so d is equal to, this is going to end up being a 3 squared, so this is going to end up being a 9. This is negative 4 squared, so plus 16, so d is equal to the square root of 25, so it's 5. Okay, so basically what that's saying, if you need to see a picture, it's taking these 2 points here. If I'm drawing them for you. So 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 and negative 1 is the first point. And the other point is 3, 2. Okay. So it's basically, okay, the important, I'm probably drawing too much information here. Let me sort of stress what I'm trying to say. What you basically found, sometimes too much detail at first is like too much. So when I got that this was a 5, it's basically saying that if I walked from this point to this point, I would walk 5 units. So if you're given 2 coordinates, this distance formula will allow you to find the distance between the 2 points if you walked from one point to the other. Okay, gang, that's it. I just wanted to cover those like concepts at the end. I'll catch you again tomorrow. Make sure, as usual, just send me in the math, the homework for this section. Okay, have a lovely day. I'll catch you again soon. Bye-bye.